This is Stephen Kotler, and you're listening to Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hello, this is Dr. Raymond Moody, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, Cultural Creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
It's you're grieving the loss of your old life and the fear of the new one. It's scary because you don't know what's on the other side. And honestly, I can tell you because I just started doing this Facebook group for people in the 12-step programs called Answering the Call, because it's like God is calling you and you're answering the call. And when you answer this call, it is one of the hardest phone calls to get and to answer it, and not everybody's ready at the same time. But when this is happening, like, you feel like you can't talk to anybody about it because they don't know what's going, like they're going to think you're crazy or you're weird, and honestly, what is happening is you're going with the flow. It's the rest of the world that's going against the flow that makes it look like we're doing it wrong, instead of like, no, this is the right way. But
answering the call, I love that. Great insight from today's guest, Michelle Kelly, who's an intuitive spiritual healer. Answering the call. What does that even look like? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? And I think a lot of people expect some type of very loud and very visual sign for them to kind of take the next steps into that path of the unknown. But I think it's very subtle. I think it's like little nudges from the universe, little hints from your heart, a little pull from your spirit saying you need to go in this direction or you need to try that. But I think the key here is with action. I think with action you find purpose. And I think that it's in only times of uncertainty that we find the courage to take action. And in that action, we find direction. And in that direction, we find our purpose. And I know some of you may say, well, Trey, I don't know what to do. I don't know what action to take. And my advice to you is just wait. Wait and meditate on it. Wait and see. Wait for the universe to give you a sign. And we talk about signs in this episode and how they have guided us along our path. But you have to be open to that. You can't be closed-minded to, oh, I don't think it works for me. Once you close your mind, you close that journey. You close the book on your journey of the soul. You have to be open to everything. You have to be open-minded to results that may come from places you never expected. And once you do that, you open yourself up to many, many, many opportunities that the universe wants to give you. Just be open-minded. Open-minded. And breathe. I want to say thank you guys for listening. I want to say thank you for downloading this episode. Head over to traydowns.com. Leave me a message. Let me know your thoughts. What is it that is pulling you in your direction? What is it that is calling you? Would love to know that. Also on Instagram, tdowns80. You can hit me up over there. Follow me. And I can't wait for you guys to listen to this. So without further ado, here is the great and the powerful Michelle Kelly.
hi, this is Michelle Kelly, and you are listening to Your Superior Self.
Amazing.
Is that
Awesome.
good?
That was great.
Okay.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So you contacted me. It was interesting. You contacted me and said that you thought that it was a calling for you to come on the show. Caught my eye, reached out. We had a great conversation. Tell me more about that. What was that calling?
It was when first my son turned me on to your podcast because he saw you had Paul Selig on, and he sent it to me. And then I heard another one. Is it Mary Medeiros?
Mm-hmm.
It was a while ago. I heard her too. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to contact him. But I love what you're doing. I love that you're so intrigued by like the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in the spiritual world for a while. And at first I thought this path for me was getting narrower. And I'm realizing it's a lot wider than I know it to be. And I don't know about you with your podcast, if now people are finding you, like in the beginning, you used to have to find the people and now the people are finding you. And that's kind of what's happening with me too.
Oh, nice. So, so tell the people, like, what is it? So, what is it that you connect with? Is it do you connect directly with source? Do you use what are your methods? Like, explain that real quick.
Okay. So I feel like, first of all, I do have a spiritual connection now, but I didn't have one for a long time. And I really wanted one. And I love that. I love hearing you because I know you're searching for that too. And I was like that too. And little did I know that my spiritual puzzle was being pieced together a lot sooner. Like I couldn't piece it together as it was happening, but looking back on it, it was being pieced together. So now that I have a spiritual connection, and I feel like I'm connected to every single person that I meet, because I already know you because you're me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I'm now being called to help other people connect to their spirit, which is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I'm supposed to help people do that. But it's not as hard as people think it is.
Well, how do you connect with spirit?
Well, for me now, first I'll tell you what happened, how it kind of happened for me. I was away on a spiritual retreat years ago. My son, you know what? This kind of stuff didn't really start. I didn't have the time and start really looking into this until my son was leaving for college.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so focused on raising him and trying to take care of his needs that this kind of stuff, I kind of put all of my interests in the things that I liked and enjoyed on the back burner and focused on him. But when he left for school is when this stuff I started pursuing and having more things come to me. But I went on a spiritual retreat and I was in this chapel, and I'm not like a big church person, like got some religious trauma going on, and church is not, a place that I look forward to going to. But I was on this spiritual retreat and everybody kept saying, chapel on Sunday is awesome. And I'm like, oh, chapel, like Jesus, like I'm not looking for that. And then it was the best part of the retreat. And it was only because of this priest. There was this priest, Father Bill, and he cursed during church, which is the church I want to belong to. And not only did he curse, he was awesome, but he said, do you want to see God? And we were in stadium seating, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, look in front of you, look behind you, look to your left and look to your right. And there he is. And that day I'm like, oh my God, God is in people. Because I was surrounded by people, and that was it. That was my connection. So I'm like, everywhere I go where I see people, I see God.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, but I'm telling you, Trey, if somebody asked me 1,000 times before that, do you want to see God? I don't think I would have heard them because I wasn't ready. It was just, that was my day. That was that minute. But I could have had 1,000 people say the same exact thing to me, but my ears weren't open until then. But then I realized after that, I'm like, oh my God, like everywhere I go, I see God. And now that it's like I have this X-ray vision and I can see where people are. And it's not to judge them in a negative way, but I can just see where they are on their path because I was there too. So it's like seeing myself in stages of my life. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
Well, like when you see like when you say that you see them, right? Like, do you like, is it when you're out walking? Is it when you're in
oh my
public
God, yeah.
places, or is it like when you have like people come to you for help? Like,
It's both. But like me and my son, we would walk in our neighborhood and like there's one kid who would just go by us running. And I'm like, that is the angriest kid I've ever seen in my whole life. And he's like, Mom, why do you have to say that? I'm like, he is. I can like feel this kid's anger and he's across the street. And I'm like, I don't even know him. I can just feel it go by him, like he's gonna take down a movie theater. But like, I don't know how I know this stuff, but it just, I feel it.
Mm.
But it's not, you know, like I'm realizing what a gift it is now, but it didn't feel like that. And I thought other people saw what I saw. Like, because it's normal to me, I'm like, you don't see that? Like, that's
but do you
not
see it or do you feel it? Like,
both.
so you see, like, what do you see when you see things?
I don't know. Like, I can just see where people are when I talk to them. I can tell people's eyes. Like, now when I look at pictures, I'm like, they're not staying together. Like, I don't know what it is. I can just see it.
Mhm.
But it's not like, I wish I could describe it. It's just I can tell who's emotionally available by what their eyes look like. I can tell when people are depressed. You know, they get like a heaviness around their eyes. But it's not like this I see bad things. Like I don't see bad things. I can just kind of tell where they are. And then when people talk, I can hear where they're at in their journey.
Mm. What's the most profound thing that you've like like, I don't know, not that you're trying to prove to anyone, but like, what is the most profound thing that you've seen in someone and brought to their attention and they're just blown away by it?
Well, I don't think it's my job to bring things to people's attention unless they ask me.
Hmm.
You know, like, I don't think I've heard this before and it's true and I've lived with it. Unsolicited advice is criticism. So if you didn't ask me and all of a sudden, Trey, I told you I think you could be a better father and you should do this, you might be pissed at me because like you didn't ask me and I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
But really, it's not helping somebody to criticize them. So if somebody asks me, some things I feel like even if they ask me, it's not my job to tell them because they have to learn it or go through it.
Yeah.
So
That's almost like a
learning,
burden for you though, right? Like, I mean, to
well,
know this.
yeah, I'm kind of pissed at God for this one. I'm like, I just did a video because I do videos every week. And I did a video like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, I work for God. And, you know, like June is Gay Pride Month.
Hmm.
And I felt like it was my coming out, but not because I'm gay, but just coming out to say, like, I know that I work for God. Like, and it's a job that I did not want to have, by the way. But now that I know that I have it, I'm trying to embrace it. But I was kind of pissed.
Well, what do you got for me? I want to know what is it that I need to hear?
That you need to hear? Well, I think you're doing a great job. You're on the right path. I think you should try and have some more fun and relax a little bit.
Hmm.
It's gonna like your connection, and I know you're working towards your connection. You already have it. It's in you.
Mm.
And the best way to find it and feel it is do things that bring you joy and make you happy. That is the fast route. If you love music, you listen to your music. If you love to draw, draw. You know, like do the things that make you happy, and that's when you get your connection. Like that's really when the two like integrate.
Hmm.
So like for me, when I was 18 years old, I got sober. I was in my second drug and alcohol rehab at 18 years old. And then when I, got there the second time, I'm like, these are my people. And then years later, I went country line dancing because I love line dancing. I love country music. And I'm like, oh my God, these are my people. And then I'm in another 12-step group. I had to go back and correct all of that's another thing I got to tell you. I had to go back and address all my childhood stuff, which I did not want to do. And I had to. And I'm like, oh my God, these are my people. And then one day I'm like, oh my God, everyone is my people. Like we're all on the same path and same journey together. Some of us are waking up sooner. I'm woke. And not everybody is, and that's okay. But when they start to wake up, I want to be available so I can help people and explain to them what's happening as it's happening. Because I feel like I haven't had a lot of people to ask this stuff to. Like you hear about people after they arrive, but you never hear what the process is like as you're in it. And this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. And then to go back and talk about it. And now I'm talking about it as I'm in it. Like before I used to not be able to tell you about an explosion. I would wait until after the explosion. And now I can tell people when I smell smoke. I don't have to wait for the explosion. So that is what's going on in my process. But I think the childhood stuff, addressing all of that stuff, you cannot skip that part.
You got to go through it all, huh?
You do. And it sucks. It's ugly and it's messy and nobody wants to do it. But what's on the other side is a million times better.
Well, let me ask you this. So you become awakened.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do next? Like when we awaken, what do we do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do we
like you're already
continue?
doing it. You have your podcast. Like you have a way for people to find you, to talk to you, to tell you what their experience is like. Like you're making yourself known and seen. And I think that's what we need to do, is make ourselves known and seen. Like I think the process starts different for everybody. Like some people might write because they can't talk. Some people speak. You're doing your podcast. I'm doing videos. I'm ready to be heard and seen now that I've done all of the process. But I think everybody starts off different.
Mm-hmm. I find it not troubling. Well, I find I have trouble like living in society. Like, does that mean like I don't know
Yes,
if I
I
say,
know
like
it.
I have a hard
Yeah.
time like just I feel like we're in this dream, right? Like it's like becoming lucid in your dreaming. It's like you're awake in the dream, and now you realize that it's a dream, and you can control it, but it's like it's still not the same. Like, and I feel like it's the same for me in reality, where I'm learning more and more about reality of being it's so subjective, and then like you were talking about, we are all like one, you know, from God, and I'm learning more about the connectivity of like us with God source, with the universe, cosmos. And I'm like, on one hand, like I want to co-create, I want to have fun, I want to play, and I want to recreate my, you know, consciously recreate my reality instead of subconsciously, you know, bringing forth things because of programs, right? But breaking away from that and now really creating my life, really changing it around for myself, not out of wants, but because I want to have fun, you
Right.
know, in doing that, but doing it in a way that helps mankind and put more positive energy out there. But then on the other hand, it's like when I'm so plugged into society and I see the things that we do it's like we're on this merry-go-round, like everything's the same. Everyone gets up, they do the same thing. They do blah, blah, blah. We go on vacation, we do this, we do that. We're expected to, you know, when we get vacation, we're like, oh, now we can relax and we can, you know, hang out and and try to relax. And we're at this beach, and oh, guess what? Now we have to go back to work. Now we're getting the now we, that those quotes, back to reality. Now we have to go back to reality, and it's like this ever spinning cycle of fallacy. Like it's hard for me. I don't know about you. It's just hard for me because it's like once you become aware of that, now it's kind of like now what do you do? Like I know there's
It'll
this
be done
Buddhist,
for
but I know there's this Buddhist saying, once you become enlightened, you still go back to work the next day or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, do you get that?
Yeah, well, I know for me, like as the shift is changing, like as I started to it, first of all, like even my job, I was a hair colorist for a long time. So I got to talk to people and I worked on people on their outsides, and what I found is people are all the same and we're all trying to fix our insides with our outsides. And it's a temporary fix and it doesn't work. And I was meant to do that and I love doing it, but now I'm ready for like the deeper work. And I needed to get out of hairdressing. Like I knew I was being shifted into something else, but I couldn't get myself out of it. Like I didn't know how, because of the fear of like, how am I going to pay my bills? What am I, if I say like, Mercy, I'm not doing this anymore, then what? And what happened for me is first I wrote a song a few years ago and I didn't know I was ever going to do anything like that because I had a hard time with reading. So I thought I couldn't write. So I wrote a song and at first I thought, oh my God, I'm meant to be a songwriter. I'm going to be rich and famous and my song's going to be out there and that's how it's going to go down. And it didn't happen with my song. I wrote a song and it was great. And I just felt like, all right, I thought I was meant to do that. I was meant to be in country music. My song was back at another country music artist who's very famous. He never acknowledged my song. And I'm like, okay, without, I'm still okay. Like this isn't going to happen the way that I think. And then I decided I don't think I want to do songwriting because it's the same thing. It's a business of it's never enough. Everybody's like, oh, your song's great. What's your next one? It's always about the next thing that hasn't happened yet. And honestly, if I was 20, I would have been like, let me jump in the pool without checking if there's water. And now I'm like, I don't want to be caught up in stuff where everybody's looking at my next thing. Like, it's not this thing. It's like, it's never enough. You can't reach it. And I'm like, I don't need to feel like shit about myself in my job. I can do that on my own. Like, I don't want to go looking for that. So I was in a car accident a year and a half ago, and that was God taking me out of my job. I swear, like if you can't shift yourself on your own, it'll be done for you. And usually I know for me, I need big shit to happen. Like it can't be little. It has to be huge because I'll miss it if it's little. But I always think, is this a sign? Is this a sign? Like I'm always looking for a sign. And I know without a doubt, 100%, if you miss the first sign, you'll get a second sign. And if you miss the second sign, you'll get a third sign. And if you miss the third sign, you'll get a fourth sign. And you keep getting bigger signs. And I remember telling my girlfriend one time, I'm like, did you ever hear that analogy about there was a guy waiting for a boat, the water came up, and then a helicopter came by and he didn't take it and he drowned. He's like, God, why didn't you save me? And he's like, I sent you a boat and a helicopter. Did you ever hear that one?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm always thinking, did I miss the boat and the helicopter? Like did it come by and I didn't know it? But I honestly believe, without a doubt, 100%, that I will get a Disney cruise ship and a 747. Like I'm not going to miss the boat. No one's going to miss the boat. No one's going to miss the helicopter. You'll get a bigger plane. Like you'll get more.
Yeah, I have a lot of signs. I'm noticing a lot more signs for me. Like
What are
today.
your signs?
Well, like today, like I went running, and I usually go and I get up early and I go run, and I try to see the sunrise in this field that I picked out for myself. And there's this, I've been trying to bring more awareness to my podcast about, and this is just my take on it. I could be totally wrong. It could be meaning something else, but this is what I related it to. In the very beginning of the run, I'm thinking to myself, well, what can I do more for this organization that I want to promote? It's called the Abandoned Children's Fund.org, and it's for abandoned children around the world. And it helps them, it brings them in, it brings them, gives them shelter, education, love, food, all of that. Because I mean, there's some very terrible places, like war-torn countries, families with 9 kids, and they're choosing 2 of them. They had to take them to the city and abandon them because they can't feed any of their kids, and hoping that people will take care of them. So I'm thinking to myself, what can I do more for this? What can I do more? How can I be more of service? And I'm just running, and I'm like, all right, maybe I don't know what to do. And I get to my field, and I start, I'm taking pictures of the sunrise, and I'm like, I don't even notice it. I just happen to look, and there's this baby deer, like literally, I call him Wilbur. He's literally standing there. It looks just like Bambi out of the movie, like standing, I don't know, maybe 20 feet away from me. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this baby is just here in the middle of a field. It's on my Instagram, actually. I posted it today, a video. And he like walks down the row of the field, and he walks back, and then he's walking back. He literally comes up, like almost up to me. I mean, I'm sitting like very close. I'm like, start calling him. He starts walking. It's like a dog coming to you. I'm like, come here. And like Wilbur walks like almost up to me, and then cautiously walks away. And I'm like, that's an abandoned kid. That's an abandoned like little deer, right? Like, so that's a sign I'm doing the thing that I should be doing, promoting this organization, doing, helping bring more awareness. And it's like, wow, like, when the universe gives you a sign, and just, it's like, it's a sign. It's like, that's the entire feeling that I've had today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. Like, I mean, I've been having more signs, but signs like you were talking about, they have to be big or else you miss them.
Yeah.
I think when you think that it's a sign, it's a sign. Like, as soon as you think it, oh, is this a sign? It's a sign. Like, there is no, oh, maybe it's not, it's coincidence. No, as soon as that thought comes into your head that it's a sign, this could be a sign, it is a sign.
Right.
And it resonates with you. And then your brain starts trying to analyze, well, what is it? Blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. It's like whatever you feel at the moment, like where you're generating the energy at, where are you at in your life? What does it mean to you? That's the sign. And that's what it meant for me today. I mean, what are some signs that you've been given lately?
Okay, so I get signs all the time, and sometimes I'm even like, this is not a sign because I don't want it, but I see, on the clock, 111, 222.
Oh, I see that all the time. Yeah.
That
444.
is signs that you're waking up too, because you're present, you're noticing stuff.
Mhm.
And then if you go online and Google it, there's all kinds of, people. There's Kyle Gray, he's an angel guy, and he has a book on all the numbers, and it tells you the angel meanings of them.
Mhm.
So I love all that stuff. What's so funny? When I was growing up, we never really went to church, even though I went to Catholic school, but we listened to Breakfast with the Beatles every Sunday. And so music was our church. So I started thinking started connecting my puzzle, and I'm like, if I hear the Beatles on Sunday, it's a sign, and then I went to this music place with my girlfriend. Like, they have poets, it's all like aspiring artists, and it's really cool. It's called Chaplains. It's by me. And we went on a Sunday night, and this guy sang a song by the Beatles, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a sign I'm meant to be here. So then, like, one day my girlfriend was in the car, and Here Comes the Sun came on, and she sent me it. So like now I have a rule that anytime I hear the Beatles, it's a sign. Before it had to be only on Sunday, like my day of church. And now every time I hear the Beatles, I'm like, that's God talking to me. Like, I'm going to be okay. And then, did you see Two Popes? Did you get to see
No,
that?
I did not.
Oh
Did
my
not. No.
God, you gotta see that. People kept telling me to watch it. It's on Netflix. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then one day I watched it. Even the Pope did not want to be the Pope. And they played I watched it on a Sunday. They played the Beatles in it. And I was like, see, it's a sign. I meant to see this. But so your signs can be whatever you want them to be. It could be, maybe your grandmom used to call you by a nickname and you're out and then somebody says the name, or, like, for everybody it's different. But I have a friend who loves butterflies. Every time I see butterflies, I think of her. It's like we're all kind of piecing our puzzle back together. I did do a video of how I got my spiritual connection, and I sent it to the Pope. I was so proud. I'm so proud that I have a connection that I feel like I got to tell people. But it started way before. The other thing was, when we were little, my dad used to say this prayer with us. I didn't know it was a prayer, by the way. Every night before we went to bed, he would say, what are you going to dream of? And I'd say the angels. And he'd say, what are they going to do? And I'd say, dance and play. And he'd say, with who? And I'd say, with me and you. So we were praying, but I didn't know it. That was a prayer. So but I'm still, I'm 49 now. Some of the stuff is just coming back to me. It's like somebody might say something to you, Trey, and you're like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how you get connected.
Oh, it is. But then when you get connected, it's like you got to do things to stay connected. Like you'll fall off and you'll drop off, but you got to have that like backup. This backup practices to get you back up, right? Like, I mean, we all fall from heaven. It's just, what can you do? Because like it sucks when you do. Like it sucks. Because I find, when people are operating at a higher level of consciousness, like just the conversations, the way they handle themselves, like I see it all the time. And I feel guilty sometimes because I don't know if you do this or not, and I don't know if any of the listeners. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm a higher being, blah blah blah. I'm just saying that I'm accessing higher parts of myself, and when I go out in public, or I start falling back into my old ways, like it drags you down. Like it just, you know what I mean? And I don't mean like old ways. I mean, like if I start having conversations that I know that are just not me, like just trying to be a part of something, or try to fit in or wear that mask or that persona of what Trey used to be, I feel so shitty. Like oh man, that wasn't me. Like, why was I portraying myself as something that I used to be that I'm not anymore? Like, why not? Why couldn't I be brave and just, be who I am now, regardless, and not care what other people think, just be me, portray that energy out. It happens like when you put yourself like, but it's like a test too. It's like the universe is testing you every time too. It's like the reality, your reality. The universe is like, all right, well, you think you're so advanced, but we're going to simulate this conversation right now. We're going to give you, some people that pull you back down, or not. I shouldn't say pull you back down, pull you back into your old ways. And we're going to see how you handle yourself. And then sometimes you pass and sometimes you fail, but it's the growth that you're looking for. The universe is looking for that. And it's in everything. Your entire day is nothing but tests, in my opinion. It's like, you build yourself up brick by brick, day by day, and you pass and you fail. But as long as you're going forward, I mean, you're progressing. As long as you get up and you keep doing the same things and you still have the same goals, like one day you'll be around that group of people that bring you back into those old personas, and you won't be, you won't fall for that trick anymore. You won't fail that test. you'll stand firm in what you believe and what you're about, and they can have their conversations, and they can gossip, they can talk about things that aren't necessarily of higher standards, and you'll be like, okay, but I accept you for that. It's not bad. I mean, that's just who you are and where you're at. And they'll look at you and be like, what do you talk about, man? Like, this isn't you. And you can say, well, it is me, and have authority in that. I don't know if you can resonate with that at all.
I can, you know what? I can. And as you're talking, I'm like, I'm so sorry you feel that way. I know when that's happening to you, what really is happening is you don't feel safe enough to be yourself. So that's your intuition talking to your tribe, that you don't trust the people that you're with. So that is, I can hear it and I can see it. Like when you're telling me that and you're asking me about like my gift, I am not looking for anybody to pass or fail. I don't feel like God is testing me anymore, but I used to. But I really feel like when I don't feel safe, when I feel like this person really doesn't want to hear what I have to say, or I need to not be myself right now, I'm with people that aren't awake yet. And so I try and limit my time with people who make me feel like that. Like that's a red flag for me. And the other thing, it is hard to do on your own. I'm in 2 12-step groups. I go to meetings ever since the pandemic, they started having meetings on Zoom. I go to meetings and I connect with people who are just like me every single day. And we're not all good at the same time, and we're not all bad at the same time. But what helps me so much is having support from other people, because it's hard to stay how I am right now all day, every day, because life happens. People say unkind things to you. Usually when people are saying that, it's because it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized too is anything that's like negative or not nice, that's your ego. Like anything like, oh, you don't have this yet, or that's the house you live in, or I went on 2 vacations this year, Trey, like that's somebody's ego. And then anything that's kind and loving, that's from God. So when I'm around people that operate out of their ego, I can see where they are and think, if I didn't have the support and the help that I have and get constantly, I might be there too.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I'm not there anymore. And try not to take it as I'm not enough, or do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, not take it as a personal hit against me, but when I go someplace and it's mostly my family, I can't be myself around,
Mm-hmm.
And when I have to shut that shit down, they're not my people. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. No, Ram Dass said, if you want to find how spiritual you are, go spend a week with your family.
No, thank you.
It's not so much. My family know what I'm about. I mean, they, some people are more like, some people are cool with it and some are not. It is what it is. It's fine. Like whatever. But it's more so when I go out, like if I'm performing duty, or if I'm, when I say duty, when I go out to work in my professional life.
Okay.
And I'm out doing things, or if I spend a lot of time by myself, and my kids, my wife. So like, and I have a couple people that I hang out with, like very close to me. I have a very tight knit circle, because I can just go out in public. I can feel the energy. I can just feel like the
heaviness.
Yeah, the heaviness of it, and just like I look around and I just see how we cling to so many traditions, because we're like slaves to our history. We're like slaves to like traditions, like because we did this 20 years ago and it makes me feel good because this is what, we did. We have to keep redoing it. It's just like, man, like, it's just kind of like, I want to break free of that. Right. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking too much into it, but I just feel like I just see patterns that just reoccur in society all the time, just because that it's always been that way. Like there's no real new take on how we should be, or um, project ourselves when we're out in public or have conversations or whatever. Like I still see people just be, walking like you were talking about, just this energy, just negative energy, like just kind of like in their own head. Like you can just tell that they're just fuming. I can just see it.
Yeah.
And then you got, people that are just kind of like, when you see somebody else who just knows, you know what I mean? Like and it's just, I guess I'm trying to adjust to, and I've been struggling with it lately.
Okay.
Just trying to like adjust to how, since we're opening back up and we're, people are coming back into, the community and things like that. I'm trying to readjust to that because I like to spend a lot of time with myself. I like to read. I like to hang out with the kids and be with the wife and do my own thing. And, all the learning that I've had, all the development, all the learning and, exploring and conversations that I've been having, with the podcast and authors and people like yourself, like I've grown a lot, and so like when I re-enter the old world of Trey, it's kind of like, ooh, man, I can feel all of it, all the heaviness and the dense. And then like when I meditate on it and I ask my higher self and I listen to that voice, they're just like, nonchalantly, like it's the death of the old,
Mhm.
and it's like you're going through that rebirthing process. And what you're feeling is that just the death, the decay, the getting rid of all the old, and it has to, for the new, you have to get rid of all that for the new. So I mean, I'm excited about that, but for the new, but it's just like, you go out into public and you go to the store and you just feel the heaviness.
It's you're grieving the loss of your old life and the fear of the new one. It's scary because you don't know what's on the other side. And honestly, I can tell you because I just started doing this Facebook group for people in the 12-step programs called Answering the Call, because it's like God is calling you and you're answering the call. And when you answer this call, it is one of the hardest phone calls to get and to answer it. And not everybody's ready at the same time. But when this is happening, like you feel like you can't talk to anybody about it because they don't know what's going, like they're going to think you're crazy or you're weird and honestly, what is happening is you're going with the flow. It's the rest of the world that's going against the flow that makes it look like we're doing it wrong instead of like, no, this is the right way. But there's a lot, you take a lot of shit for this because it's not an easy, that's what I was saying. It's like, it felt like a lonely road because to stand up and say like, I don't have to manipulate to get my needs met anymore. And I'm not going to do things that make me feel shitty just to make money. Like so many people wish they could do that and they can't. So it's easier to say, you're fucked up, you're doing it wrong, instead of saying, God, I wish I could do what you're doing. Or how did you, but when that starts to happen to them, like I know for me now is I want to make myself as available as possible. So when people do have this happen, that they can call me and I can explain. Like I have people call me when they are at the worst time in their life, the most vulnerable time in their life, which I am so honored by because they don't know what's happening, but I'm not like, I can explain it, but it's not a judgment. It's just, and I know what you're going through right now is you are grieving the loss of your old life and it's a loss and you can't skip it. And it feels bad and it's going to be sad and it's going to pass and you're going to just get moments of joy. You get moments that hopefully carry you to the next moment, And how you're saying about the abandoned children, how it affects you so much, it's because you have to rescue yourself.
Mm.
And when you do that, you are helping the collective. So one of the reasons probably why you're so drawn to that is because you needed that.
Mm.
And I feel like, see the sign behind me, create the things you wish existed. I went to this one lady because she was going to help me find my soul's purpose. Because I'm like looking too, I'm like, I need somebody to tell me, give me the answer. Where is it? Like somebody must know. And I went to this lady and I paid $500 and I was there for like 6 hours and I came home and I'm like, what do I wish was available for me that doesn't exist or didn't exist that I needed or wanted? Like, that's my job to create it. And it's I'm like, that's my soul's purpose. What was it that I needed that wasn't available to me? And when I saw the sign, I'm like, oh my God, it's a sign. This is my sign. And I got it at Kirkland's and it was on the clearance. And I'm like, it's a sign that this
Had that Kirkland smell.
yeah. And I was like, I always was looking for somebody to tell me what was normal. Like and not to compare, but just to like gauge, like would somebody just tell me? And then I realized part of my soul's purpose is to tell people what is normal and not to compare, but to say, we're all on the same road. Like we're all on the same road. Some are just a little ahead. And so the people who are a little bit ahead need to go back and tell the people who are coming up, oh, there's some trees up on the right. When you see the trees, you're okay. There's a Wawa on your left, and then you're like, oh, okay. They said that would be there, just so you get a gauge of like, I'm on the right path. So I can tell you, Trey, you are on the right path. You're not going to do it wrong and you can't mess it up. And just having fun and doing things that make you happy is the fastest way to feel the connection.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I've been reading a lot more about the law of attraction and like consciously co-creating with God, right? Because we are of that, like we are God incarnate. And people can't handle that. People can't handle hearing that. I don't know. I guess it's because of our dogmas, right? Like to think that, someone, if I even, I don't even know if I can even imagine myself 10 years ago saying that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we are God incarnate. Like we are here to get that experience we are like the nerve endings of God, like getting that experience and growth and developing, even though we have souls, that soul comes from source, which is God. So we're all together. Like God is this huge hologram and we're all a part of the bigger picture, even the small fragments. And if you had said that to me 10 years ago, I'd been like, you're fucking nuts. Like get away from me.
Yeah.
And I, how many times I've resisted, like, just this message and I'm
Right.
like, no, this isn't right. Like, what are you doing, man? Like you're going nuts, dude. Stop reading this shit. And then, but it feels good. And then it's like, the more you read, the more it's like, yeah, why not? Why can't we be a part of that? And you start finding these little clues in the Bible of like Jesus saying this stuff, saying that we are part of God, be like him. His teachings are totally translated wrong, in my opinion. I think they've just been handed down from generation to generation and misguided. I think there are definitely some truths, but I think, one of the chapters, I think is John chapter 10, verse 34, where he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, they're basically, accusing him of calling himself God. And he says, doesn't your book say that you are God's? And so like there's like little breadcrumbs in the Bible. It's just been so long since I've read it. And I wasn't looking for these messages, that I just skipped them. And so I've been dabbling with the law of attraction, co-creating. But then it's like, I've been listening to a lot of Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is fabulous. I don't know if you listen to him on YouTube at all. Like, he has a lot of great speeches and a lot of great conversations. He wrote this $10 million check, put it in his wallet, said that he was going to be making $10 million a year within 3 years or 5 years of whenever he wrote this check to himself. And he'd go up into this field, and he would raise his arms out, and he would imagine himself being that actor making millions, working with directors, and receiving all the gifts from the universe. And I think he gave himself till like the end of the year of whatever year it was. And it was actually the last year of the check that was written, like Thanksgiving. So he had like a month left in the year, and he got like $10 million for his role in Dumb and Dumber. And he went on Oprah and he said all this. And so if you guys get a moment, go check out Jim Carrey's, he has a lot of great content on like the law of attraction and working with the universe. But that's what I've been, not doing it for my ego, but doing it like, I guess, and I don't know how else to say this, but kind of reaffirming the thought that we are part of God. Because if God can create the universe, if God can create us, then why can't we manipulate the reality that we live in and create the things that we want, not for need, but for fun? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't think you have to manipulate to make it happen. Like, that's the part that I don't agree with. I think the whole that we have to manipulate to get our needs met, I don't think that's true. I think that is something we were taught to believe we needed to do, kind of like,
Well, manipulation. What do I mean by that? I don't mean like manipulate. I mean, like, when I say manipulate, maybe it's the wrong word. I would say
manifest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't say
believe in
manipulate.
that.
Yeah.
I manifested my whole life and never knew it. When I was a little girl, I used to say to my dad, I'm never moving out. I'm moving in. If I ever get a husband, we're living here. And guess what? I got a husband and we live there. And I said, if I was like half joking. We were having our house built. But I said, if I ever have kids, we're going to live here. I moved back with my son, got married, and our house was being built. So it was easier for my husband to move into my dad's house. But like everything that I said, and I was like half joking, happened. And then I used to drive around looking at huge houses when I was younger. I would go in sample homes all the time. And I'm like, I'm going to live in a house like this one day. And guess what? I lived in a house like that one day. But I never knew I was manifesting. I never knew what I was doing. And then I was at a class for work and they had somebody in there and they're like, did you ever read The Secret? And I'm like, what's The Secret? Like, I was doing all this stuff, but no one ever told me. And I never read any of that stuff. And one thing it just made me think of is I've been like, I go for walks and listen to my music and I dance when I walk, and like words were coming to me, and I wasn't a big reader. Like I didn't read the Bible, but words started coming to me like atonement. And I would like have to come home and look this stuff up. I'm like, what the hell? Like I heard resurrection. I'm like, why? What is going on? Like, I'm hearing words I never heard before. I had to go look them up. I don't know what they mean. So it's almost like your soul knows stuff. Like, I knew how to manifest before somebody told me what was manifesting, but I didn't know I was just like joking. And it happened. And how I wrote my first song was I was standing in my kitchen and I said, God, I wish I could do something with country music. That's all I said. And 2 weeks later, I wrote a song. And like, if you ever told me I was going to do that, I'd be like, that is crazy. So I don't even think you have to do the action after it. I think it just happens.
I think it's the thought. I think it's the thought that creates it. And it's like weird. Like once you have that thought and that feeling, you get that feelings too, like you already have it. right? Like I think I really do. I think you have to have this belief that you already have it, and then once you do that, like it kind of like creates itself in the universe, and then it's like reverse creation. Like it pops up, and then everything starts working backwards to where you're at, and then it just kind of flows in your direction. But like Wayne Dyer, I'm a big fan of his. Like I'm a big fan of Wayne Dyer, and he talks about it. But he never came. He wouldn't touch like The Secret. Like when they came to him about endorsing or writing stuff for The Secret, he's like, nah, I'm not. He didn't want to be a part of that for whatever reason. Because I think people get the wrong idea about that. They start thinking of it like a egotistical type of manifestation where you get a lot of things just for the materialism part aspect of that. Where I think, like I was telling you earlier, like it can be fun. And when I mean by fun, it's like this earth is the Garden of Eden. It is, for us to enjoy it. It's a present, it's a gift.
Yes.
And for us to enjoy it in a way that relates to us each individually and whatever that means for you. So for me, like me just totally living in earth, like living as a playground would be like traveling to different locations and like just enjoying myself, either surfing or skateboarding or skiing or doing extreme sports in areas, or just looking at nature and visiting the Himalayas and looking at the temples and just like exploring and looking at it as this huge gift that we get to learn anew. And there's so many areas I've never been, like, and experiencing that. But being able to do that, you have to have funds. You have to have a source of income, or you have to be able to go do this stuff. So like for me, manifesting would be me manifesting consciously now, like knowing that's my goal and doing that, bringing resources into my life for me to go do that. And I'm excited. I'm really excited because the more signs that I get, the more like mileposts. You know how you go on a hike and you see those stones piled up along the path?
Oh yeah, like the little. I know what you're talking about.
Like
Yeah,
hikers and I think mountain climbers
like
do that too.
pyramid-ish rocks. Yeah.
Yeah, they let you know you're on your path. And I think that's I'm seeing more of those. So I think, 2 years, 3 years, I think we'll be having a different conversation.
You are totally manifesting. When you were even just telling me about that, I think that is the manifestation. And you know what I have here? My little God box.
Mhm.
I made this God box during the quarantine. I'm gonna put you going on all your favorite things in my God box. We'll manifest for you.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I write little letters to God and put it in there, and then I'll send you a picture that I put it in.
Oh,
And
that's awesome. Thank you so
as they
much.
come true, I burn them and do a little thing. But I put my girlfriend the other day, she had to work and she's a waitress and it was so hot out. I put, please let Amy work in air conditioning today. And then she texts me, she's like, I'm inside. I'm like,
Awesome.
I told you that box works.
Michelle, this has been awesome. How can people connect with you? How can they find more about what you're doing?
Okay. I have 2 YouTube channels. I have one called Be in the Change, Michelle Kelly. And then my second one is This Is Your Sign. And I do astrological readings on YouTube. And so I do that. And then my Instagram handle is your_sign_Michelle_Kelly_. So I have my link tree hooked up to my Instagram, so you can find my YouTube channel.
Awesome. Michelle, this has been awesome. I can't thank you enough for joining.
Thank you for having me.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I'll tell you what my legacy is. I broke up with fear, I broke up with shame, and I broke up with guilt, and I am not carrying that for my family anymore. And that is my legacy.
Beautiful. Michelle, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I can't wait till we burn those letters.
Yes. You're going in the box tonight, Trey. When I write it, I know you have to go. I'll put it in and send you a picture.